And welcome to the Friday Evenings with Marilyn talk show. My guest this evening is someone that I'm sure a lot of you have heard of in the past, and it certainly is a great pleasure to have her with us. This person, Mikkel Pender, whom you've read and heard about for a number of years, I want to give you a little bit of background information about her. She's a former high school teacher, and after teaching for a while, then she decided, I think I would like to do something more. So she went back to school and got a master's in actuary science degree. For the past 10 years, she's been a consultant with one of the big four accounting firms that's large and international consulting firm. And for the sake of confidentiality, we won't mention her employer's name. She's also the owner of a 401k account and a Roth IRA. Now, given these times, I think there are many of us who are just really nervous when it comes to retirement. So our guest this evening is going to either relay or increase our fears when it comes to retirement planning. And as I look around at our audience, I see that a lot of us seem like we are probably in that age range where retirement plans are really crucial for us. So would you join me in welcoming my honored guest and a person that I've just looked forward to and want to actually plan my retirement plan, Mikkel Pender. May I call you Mikkel?
Sure.
Okay, great. And this is our audience. Now, I recall that last week you spoke to us and you mentioned your favorite teacher, Jennifer Riley, and the fact that she was your history teacher and had a great impact on you. So I want to ask you, if Mrs. Riley came to you and asked you to recommend a retirement plan for her, what process would you go through in order to advise Mrs. Riley on how she should proceed?
Marilyn, first let me say thank you for inviting me here tonight. I've watched your show many times and I am definitely happy to be here. In particular to talk about one of my favorite topics, something that I'm passionate about, and that is retirement planning. Now, Jennifer being a teacher would be a little easier than most of us because, as you know, Fulton County school system, they have a very generous pension plan program. So she has options available to her that may not be available to others. She has she has access, for example, to a 403B plan. They have another type of defined benefit plan, and she also has the option of getting into a 401k plan if she wants to, in which the system would match some monies. So there are quite a bit of options available to her. And if she's married, then her husband could also put some monies aside for them. And I think she still is. But that's what I would tell her, just to maximize and take advantage of the benefits that are already available to her.
So it sounds like it's to your advantage maybe who your employer is, and that certain employers offer better packages than other employers?
That is correct, and in today's economy, and it may not be so prevalent now, but definitely benefit packages, as you know, that's one of the calling cards to why a lot of us join a particular company. When people are going to work somewhere, the first question they ask usually, what are the benefits? After how much you're going to pay me.
Okay, and we hear these terms 401k, 403, 40. Just talk a little bit and help. Just pretend, because I think I'm like the average American, a K, a B, a C. What's the difference?
How many of you know what a 401k plan is? Now, it seems like a lot of your audience, and I think a lot of the country, are familiar with these numbers and these, what these things reference. But these numbers are merely references to a part of the Internal Revenue Code. So these are merely tax code numbers that say how much monies can be put aside for a particular individual for retirement purposes, and it gives some guidelines as to how each plan is administered. So, for example, a 403B plan is very specific to nonprofit organizations, specifically school systems, hospital systems, things like that. Whereas a 401k is very similar, but it's used generally and by pretty much everyone else.
Okay, I'm learning something new. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so you've been a benefits specialist for 10 years now, and a lot of times people think of financial planners, but that's very different from a benefits specialist. So what's the difference?
Well, the difference, I guess I can say in 2 words, and that would be individual versus corporate level.
Ah.
Persons who are financial planners generally deal with individuals, so they would call on Gloria, for example, and help her with her individual financial plan, or they would call on Ingrid and help her with her financial plan. I work mostly on a corporate level with CFOs and HR executives and things like that, so I'm helping the company with their executive benefit plan. So I'm on the other side of the fence, so to speak.
Okay, good. I know I've had financial planners come and visit me in my home, and it's so overpowering. It's like, how do you say no to them? So now I see the benefit. Okay, there's been a lot of discussion in the economy about both positive and negative when it comes to the focus that the media takes. And so I'm wondering, when there are negative things that are happening in the news, do you get a lot of phone calls from these corporate executives?
Oh yes, we do.
Do they get very nervous when it comes to, gee whiz, how is this going to affect our plan that we're looking at for our employees? If the Enron was probably the first biggest scandal that made a lot of executives nervous. So does your phone ring?
It rings, but I don't think that executives are usually nervous. I like to call it anxious energy, because for them, they usually, anxious energy, that's right. They usually have the resources to get information so that they can plan ahead. So when they hear that something's happening or something's coming, they really look at it as an opportunity or a situation that just requires them to make a detour in their plans, not to take them off track, but to go around a hump or a bump.
Okay.
For example, and you were asking me about, or as an example rather, when the Enron situation happened. And right now with changes in legislation around executive pay, that has become an issue. So yeah, so executives are just looking for another way to legally dump money. Most of the time they're going to end up with the same amount of money. The money is just going to be reallocated somewhere else. So if they can't get bonuses, they want to pay us to determine where can they put the monies in a deferred compensation plan so that they can have it a little later down the road or something of that nature. It usually gets very interesting, though.
I would think, and speaking of interesting, and I can hear you chuckling, I'll bet you've got some comical stories when it comes to executives hiding money or dumping it. So would you share at least just one of those comical stories with us?
Well, before I came, I promised my boss that I was not going to mention any of these situations or stories. But I think that I can definitely talk about the executive who determined that he was not going to pay himself. He was going to pay himself $1 rather, because the company was doing poorly.
Okay.
But in paying himself $1, we later discovered that he found a way to defer $2 million.
And you did not help him with that, did you?
I did not help him with that.
Okay.
It came to us afterward because the IRS got wind of it.
Yes, there is some justice after all. Okay.